down to Dash and Crew.
Thank you, gentlemen. There is so much to talk about here because we set up so much, and then so much of it went differently than we may have assumed. I want to start with picks and bans. Jungle, with Gragas out, we saw Origen go and try and pinch the jungle. Bengi decided to show them that he can play Jarvan.
Yeah, I think the pick and ban revealed a lot about these teams. I actually do like what Origen did in the pick and ban phase by banning out the junglers. And because by doing that, they actually force SKT into either banning the OPs or trading things. And the reason I think this is interesting is throughout this entire tournament, it's kind of been the Mordekaiser and Gangplank. But if we consider the picks that were huge in the quarterfinals, Tom Kench, Lulu, it starts to extend. SKT didn't want to trade 1 for 2, even if they had the first pick. So by banning out the junglers on the red side, they actually made SKT make a pretty decisive choice, and SKT did end up limiting their options a little bit.
Well, I think the choices Origen made were because they had to once they first banned Elise. Once you ban Elise, you no longer have 2 bans left. You're going to ban Rek'Sai, or you're going to give them a free Rek'Sai. So once SKT started banning out the regular purple side bans, I think they're like, well, we kind of already dug ourselves in this Elise ban, so we have to keep going with it. And that kind of like flowed for their pick and ban, even though they didn't want it.
Right, and what this ended up doing was giving SK Telecom many of their comfort picks. I mean, we talk about Easy Hoon. We associate him with Azir. We talk about Bang. He is now 13-0 professionally, undefeated on Kalista. And so these kind of picks coming through, when you can't throw these more targeted bans out, they're going to get the comfort picks.
Yeah, I mean, it's the nature of being on red side. I still like what Origen did because you don't have many options. Like, they can't then ban out Azir and Fiora because then they're giving them the pick the litter jungler and a trade of OPs.
Well,
like, it just doesn't work.
Their decision was good. Like, they had to give up the power picks, they realized that. So they picked the counter picks. Like, although Victor isn't a counter pick to Azir, he can do well.
The attempted counter.
But the Kinnan into a Fiora, I think, is great. I think the Tristana into Kalista is great as well. So if you're going to have to be giving up these picks, at least have something in your pocket to play against it.
Let's take a look at how that manifested in the game as we look at SKT grabbing that victory. We saw the lane swap come through. Looked rather in favor of Origen as they had a quick push with Tristana, but they decided to leave Soaz in the long lane following the initial turret falling.
I think this was tunnel vision incarnate. So they get the counter picks on Kalista, they get it on Fiora, and they go, okay, we can lane 2v2 and 1v1, yay. But they don't realize, like, Tristana's gonna auto push, so they can't really freeze that lane when normally when you lane swap, you get a frozen lane and a lane that you have to defreeze. So now they're sitting in a lane that they don't get to freeze, and they have to de-push top. But, like we said, in Origen likes to send their jungler bot lane. Eve goes bot. Kinnan is alone top. Poor guy.
With no wards in the river.
With no wards in the river. And even if he did, they're just going to chase him down the lane and keep freezing it. There's nothing that you can do in that situation as a solo lane, like top laner. Like, you have to have your jungler, you have to have your support. So I think they tunneled really hard on the counter picks and abusing them, and they didn't realize that it kind of like destroys how 2v1s are played.
And I actually think the outplay that Soaz did to stay alive did a lot to save Origen's early game and ended up giving them a bit of an advantage because they spent so much time chasing around Soaz for no total gold gain. Meanwhile, Amazing got like a 15 or 20 CS advantage while he was not having presence in the lanes. And that did give them a mid-game spike, but that actually really shouldn't have happened unless Soaz makes that ridiculous escape.
Yeah, and but later as the game progressed, I mean, we saw 100+ CS difference from Marin because it was SK Telecom. We talked about how they can increase these gold leads, how they are very good at assigning lanes and making sure they get all of that gold. And so they really started pulling ahead in farm over time.
No, it was funny. We had these statistics coming into the day where SKT averages at 20 minutes a 4K gold lead. And Origen averages down 160 gold at 20 minutes per that graph that we showed. Well, today in this game one, Origen was up 700 gold at that 20-minute mark with, you know, with that, and then follow that up with that amazing Baron call at 23 minutes.
I think Origen played really well this game. I was very impressed by their play on the map. They did the same thing against KT, if you remember, in the game in the group stages, trying to take this early Baron. And, I mean, this is right after we did see SKT sort of win a scrap, and they had an opportunity to get some wards down, but they really didn't respect Origen. This is all dark, as you can see right now. So it made it a very easy, very good Baron call for Origen.
Yeah, and these are the types of games I like to watch because, yeah, you can make an argument that SKT should have had vision of this Baron, or they should have had early wards down, but so many of these plays weren't big misplays. They were just the other team taking advantage of opportunity. Even at the very end of the game, when Origen was trying to kill the split-pushing Fiora in the top lane. I think that was the best play they could have made when they double teleport and get the Baron play. The execution of the play wasn't necessarily ideal and it didn't work out for them, but it was still a really well-played play.
Now, so I want to really quickly break down then how it all fell back into SKT's favor, because Origen, for all intents and purposes, was set up to win this game with what they were doing within the first 25 minutes.
Well, I mean, the SK Telecom did have a very nice scaling composition, and that Fiora got so far ahead and so tanky. And I know that Jat wants to talk about the itemization a little bit in this game because you felt very passionately about it.
Yeah, so this was an Origen game. Origen pulled even with SKT, and then we actually got to see what SK looks like when they're challenged. They outplayed them with the split push, and I think Origen made some big itemization mistakes. Niels was snowballing the game pretty well, so he had his core 3, Bloodthirster, Static Shiv, and Infinity Edge. And then I think he wanted the Scimitar in case Fiora tried to zero him out. But in doing so, by starting BF Sword, he delayed his item build so long that the rest of SKT saw the BF Sword, built Warden's Mail on 3 people, and Niels didn't have armor penetration, which neglected the opportunity for Origen to find the right team fights. And it's one of the big reasons SKT wasn't punished while they were split pushing.
Well, a little bit of time for both of these teams to continue to rethink their strategies moving on to Game 2. We're going to take a quick break as Origen look to bounce back and tie it up in Game 2. As we go, we'd like to give a shout out to Declan Wadey, who developed the Skin Spotlight camera tool you've seen in action throughout Worlds 2015. Don't touch that browser. The World Championship semifinals continue when we return.
Game 1 of the semifinals. South Korea's SK Telecom T1 versus Europe's Origen. Running away through the wards. Pops Summoner Teleport. And is a god. Mithy's ult's already down. A 3-man knockup. Beautiful. Gets one back from Alistair, but Mithy's already dead. Wolf survives.
Flash. Okay, that's good. Can we go?
Yeah, just go. We can. Back out now. Yeah, maybe. He's dead. But the Slicing Maelstrom buying a lot of time. 1 for 1 in this fight. Mithy gets a knockup onto Bang, and look at the damage output. Wolf and Bangi in pursuit. Peke goes down. The fight resumes 3v5. Soaz can't even kill off EasyHoon. SK Telecom T1 are undefeated still in the World Championship.